YouTube Ozzico and the Godouse is back, and that Rona finally got me here. My throat's killing me, so unfortunately, this video is not going to be, it's usually like an hour long, and there's no way in hell I can do that. Kind of going to be rapid fire here, going to give you my takeaways from all those Sunday games. I had a separate video already for the Thanksgiving games, so some interesting games on Thanksgiving, so check those out. But we have sort of a video similar to this every single Monday. We got you guys know the drill. Full NFL coverage here. I record even when I got COVID, and yeah, anything on your screen you're looking for, links always pinned in the comments. Make sure you check out that Twitter link down below. Bucks Browns. The Browns pull it off, and kind of a thriller at the end there, obviously, but. Yeah, the Bucks had an opportunity to win this game. I mean, they had control for most of the game. It was a little back and forth. The Browns were leading early in this game, but the Bucks kind of had control towards the end, just giving the ball back to the Browns. The Browns failed that fourth down. You thought maybe it was over. The Bucks could take advantage. They did not. Kind of going back to that fourth down. Well, this is kind of going back to that and some other things. The even though the Bucks probably, you could look at it two ways. The Bucks probably should have closed this game out and could have won or should have won. But looking at the Browns, they may have outplayed the Bucks even while the Bucks were winning. It felt like they constantly had the ball, constantly moving the ball. They missed a 39-yard field goal, and then that fourth down, which should have been converted, an awful drop by Amari Cooper, it would have been a whole different ball game. Obviously, or could have changed it quite a bit. But the Browns kept getting those chances, and then they have fourth down. I thought they're for sure going to go score. Then all of a sudden, it's fourth down, and David Njoku makes an insane one-handed grab that basically sent them overtime. Thought maybe they would go for two. It makes sense not going for two because you were outplaying the Bucks at that point. You trust overtime. Both teams got some chances. Carlton Davis ended up falling down. Cooper catches the ball. They get down there. Chubb finishes him off. Nick Chubb had a fantastic game as well. There was a point where they really weren't running the ball as much. The Bucks, yeah, I mean, they finally focused on the run game when they played Seattle, and that's why they won. Controlled the clock, controlled possession, obviously. And the Browns are struggling to stop the run. I just don't think Rachaad White got enough carries to get going. He had one big carry or one big run, but just didn't get enough to get going fully, only 14 carries. So having Brady throw the ball 43 times or so just really isn't it, in my opinion. Especially when you're going against a guy like Myles Garrett. So the Browns clutch up, win this game, much needed. Now Deshaun Watson's going to be back. They can make that run to sneak in the playoffs. Bucks going to be missing Tristan Wirfs for a little bit here, so that's pretty tough. That's a tough loss there. Bengals Titans, yeah, kind of a back and forth game, pretty entertaining. The whole way it's like, oh, who's going to win? Who's going to win? This game back and forth. And the Bengals felt like had a little bit control towards the end. I think the difference was, I think two things. I think you got to start with Joe Burrow, just being, and then Tannehill played all right. He's a solid quarterback, but it's just something the Titans don't have. Burrow, the throws he makes in crucial situations, the ball placement, but using his legs, too. Using his legs was key. Picked up some really good yards doing that. Another thing is, I think it's a bad matchup for the Titans. If you look at it, like the Titans have one of the very best defenses in football, but the Bengals kind of got in their heads a little bit because the Titans are one of the best defenses in football because they're the best stopping a run. They're okay against the pass. They know the Bengals are a pass-first team. They know they got to worry about that with Joe Burrow. So they're randomly going to sneak some Joe Burrow runs in there, and they're randomly going to sneak P. Ryan and Travion Williams in there, which were pretty darn effective even when they were catching the ball. So that kind of made the Titans like, all right, we got to, maybe we don't have to focus on the pass the most. Maybe we got to focus on Burrow escaping or watch those running backs. We didn't really game plan for this, so that opened up a bit of everything. T. Higgins making some plays, obviously later in the game. And the Titans were going to have a shot at the end, but a brutal mistake, which was the correct call. Two players hitting the snapper. That's just a stupid mistake there. So the Titans were going to go have a shot to play for overtime. I just had a feeling they were going to actually tie it. I don't know. I just had that weird feeling, but Bengals were deserving to win this game. People question the officiating a little bit, maybe a little soft on some calls, but yeah, the Bengals did play him a little bit, and it was just mainly because of Joe Burrow, the great player that he is. He's getting better as the season goes on here. The Bengals, here they come. Here, could it be like last year, So big-time win for the Bengals. They stay hot. Tough one for the Titans. Both teams were missing some key guys there, obviously. Texans and Dolphins, I don't have a lot on this one. The Dolphins gave it to them. This game was over pretty early. The Texans started coming back. The Dolphins maybe put their backups in a little early, but it paid off. The Dolphins still covered by, half a point or a point? I forgot if it was 14 or 14 and a half. They barely covered here. When the Texans announced that Kyle Allen was started, I tweeted that I'm surprised by that. People were kind of little bit, not crazy, but giving me shit a little bit, saying like, how are you surprised by that? Davis Mills hasn't been good. And I know Mills hasn't been, he's been struggling at the end of games and crunch time, but it just didn't make much sense. Ride it out with Davis Mills, the young guy. There's no way Kyle Allen's better than him. We kind of saw that. Allen was pretty bad in this game. They started getting some things going late, but early in this game, the Texans weren't making it super easy. I mean, Dolphins were scoring points instantly, but I thought the Texans' secondary was pretty tight in coverage. The pass rush was just non-existent, given 2 all day. And that was a big difference. Wilson had a good game, ended up getting hurt a little bit. Teron Armstead went down, so maybe some negatives there from the Dolphins, but a dominant win as they should in this game. Bears and Jets, in the beginning, it felt like this was going to be a good game, back and forth. A little bit, but then the Jets found a way. They adjusted on defense. Simeon was actually playing pretty well. The Bears' offense was playing pretty well. It did not look like the Jets' defense we know from this year, but they adjusted perfectly. Mike White had a really good game. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore had a really good game, so that was good to watch as well. Both those receivers were fantastic. Wilson was incredible in this game. Mike White was great. Said that, over 300 yards passing. You could definitely say he's better than Zach Wilson. It's tough to fully guarantee that or anything based off this game. Wilson's been playing much better defenses. The Bears one of the worst in football at the moment. So it's kind of wait and see, but it should and will be Mike White next week against another weaker defense, believe it or not, and a very good record of a team in Minnesota Vikings. So that should be a pretty interesting game as well. I think that's going to be a really close game. So, it's a good win for the Jets. Love the adjustments there. Bears, kind of what expected, backup quarterback, and even that guy got hurt in pregame, reigning. Bears are on that losing streak. They continue that. Falcons and Commanders. This was an interesting one as well. The Falcons pulled the Falcons at the end there. They had a good opportunity. They're only down 6, so a touchdown and an extra point would have won them the game at the very end there. They're on near the goal line, and a tip pass by Deron Payne, and then end up being intercepted. So too low for Mariota. It's just a classic Falcons mistake there. Deron Payne has been fantastic this year. I think that it was kind of the feeling that they would trade him at one point, Deron Payne that is, and then it was like, no, we're going to hang on to him, maybe let him walk this offseason. But now, it's a guy you want to bring back. The Commanders were a little sloppy, and there was a good amount of time where I thought the Falcons kind of outplayed them. Loved the adjustments from the Commanders' defense, especially in the second half. Credit Rivera, Del Rio for things like that because they've been great. This defense has been great very recently. It's a big reason for their success recently. But the start of this game, the Falcons were, they were making plays. Guys were getting open. It looked like the Falcons were going to get ready to score well over 20 points based on how they were moving the ball, the explosive plays they were making, guys being open. So the adjustments were huge, holding the Falcons to 13 there. So that was a big key. There was a stretch of this game where I thought the Falcons outplayed them. So the Commanders, maybe a little fortunate to come away with the win, but they're finding ways to win consistently right now. And that's big, obviously, in this league. Defense, again, adjustments, defense, fantastic. Brian Robinson, almost forgot, was an absolute monster in this game. It was very difficult for the Falcons to bring down. Pretty curious on the time of possession, actually. I don't know the exact numbers top of my head, so I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to look at that right now, and because that's key. Because both these teams want to. They that's kind of their game plan. They want to dominate time of possession. And the Commanders are one of the best doing that. 33 minutes to about 27. So I think you credit Brian Robinson. What do you have? 105 yards off 18 carries. Probably should have got the ball more, but overall they ran the ball 37 times. So they managed that pretty damn well. Just Brian Robinson getting yards after contact, not going down. That just continues to roll the clock there. So that's key. It's crazy. The Commanders, early in the year, up until the Bears game or around there, the play calling was so bad. The game plan and the play calling was maybe the worst in football. I've been talking about the Commanders that while they've been on the winning streak, what's the biggest difference? Is it the defense because they were underwhelming early and then they've been elite maybe or close to? And I don't know how many teams are actually elite defense right now. Niners, maybe Cowboys, maybe Titans, Commanders up there. That's a huge difference. The offensive line was not giving the quarterback, which was Wentz time, any time. Quarterback play has been a little different as well. So, about offensive line, a huge difference. But how about the coaching? How about the coaching? I'm kind of realizing right now, that Bears game was probably the last one, maybe one after that too. That Bears game, they've got lucky and won that game, but the play calling was so bad. There was no game plan, even on defense. And now you look at how they're able to dominate time possession because of these play calls and play designs, and then their adjustments they're making, even defensively. Credit to the coaching staff. It's absurd, night and day difference. So something I'm just realizing now for the Commanders. They were a little fortunate to pull this one off, but they continue to do it there. The Falcons just let games slip away here. Shouldn't be too surprised, though. Broncos, Panthers. Panthers win 23-10. The biggest takeaway in this one just is the Broncos. I mean, we knew they were a bad team based on what they were doing this year. We knew that Hackett's awful based on what he was doing this year. We knew that Russell Wilson's is bad based on what he's doing this year. But it gets so it's nothing new, but it gets to a point where it's like, man, it's like really reality, and like what it's just, you realize how poor the situation is based on a game like this, where you just get dominated by the Panthers. Russell Wilson gets completely outplayed by Sam Darnold, coming off a gruesome injury, who's a bad quarterback in his first game playing against what's supposed to be a pretty decent defense in the Broncos. Just getting dominated 23-10. I mean, the Broncos. The play calling was pretty brutal too, because Latavius Murray was gaining pretty well. They kind of didn't stick to that. They just had Russ throw how many times? 35 or so times, top of my head. But it's just ridiculous. It's just how could this be? How could it be? I know they're missing guys too, but it's just. And people say they just got to get rid of Hackett. Number one, are they actually going to get rid of Hackett? Are they going to be stubborn and insist on the guy they picked, because they picked him over Dan Quinn? Remember, which they originally wanted Dan Quinn. They originally wanted Dan 100%, and they changed their mind there. So are they going to be stubborn and insist on the guy they chose because how much kind of stock they put into him? That's one. Number two, if they do get rid of Hackett, how much does that improve them? How much does it fix? And then three, I got a third one. They got to pick the right guy to actually improve it the amount it needs to be. I don't think it's even possible, So there's a disaster there. They don't have their own first-round pick, which is a high pick. They're trapped with Russell Wilson, who's really struggling. They're in kind of a no man's land. So it's a brutal situation there for the Broncos, and you realize it more and more every week, especially with a game like this. This game shouldn't have went this way. Panthers had a bad muff punt. Broncos only get a field goal off it. They score late. The Broncos defense, I think, has been overrated this year. It's a good defense. Overrated doesn't mean bad at all. Some people think that. It's a good defense, but I think it's stat watchers. People look at the points per game that they allowed, but if you actually watch the games, and they've had some really good outings, don't get me wrong, but teams are just hitting the brakes, running clock, because they know their offense, they're dead last in offense, points per game. They know so when teams absolutely need to go score, it feels like they're actually doing that. The Broncos haven't been great stopping a run. The explosive plays down the field have been good. Surtain's been very disappointing, especially lately. Simmons has been in and out because of injuries, but when he's played, does not look like Justin Simmons that I know. So and they moved on from Bradley Chubb, so the pass rush took a hit, obviously, but I don't think. The people that are saying this, calling this a great defense, I think are only looking at that points per game. I think it's a good defense. I don't think there's probably some people out there that would probably consider it like at the top of the NFL. I don't think it's anywhere near 49ers, Cowboys, Titans, Commanders. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as those defenses. So that's my main takeaways is negatives from the Broncos this one. Credit to Sam Darnold stepping in and doing what he did. Foreman had a good game. DJ Moore had a really good game. The defense was locked down as they should be against the Broncos. I think a lot of Panthers fans, based on my Twitter comments earlier in the week, I don't think Panthers fans wanted to win this game. So that's tough, making it harder to get the quarterback that they need, because, of course, they're not going to go with with another maybe veteran, are they? They're going to have to get that quarterback of the future in the draft, but make it a little more difficult for themselves. But I guess they're still alive in the NFC South, so you got to go win ball games. You shouldn't. I understand why you want them to lose, but if you're a really big fan, it's very difficult to want them to lose. Ravens and Jags. The Ravens choke another game. I mean, it's a brutal one here. Credit to the Jags are the best bad record team, and it's not complete garbage or anything like that, but they're the best team with the bad record. They should have a lot more wins, and it's only their fault. It's only one to blame is them for not closing out some games. But they put up some good fights with teams. It's just about closing them out, and they sure closed this one out. They found a way to win the game here, and it was pretty impressive. Trevor Lawrence, still has his hiccups here and there, but the throws that this guy makes, the clutch moments. I mean, he just makes plays that no other quarterback from that class can make. That's for sure. But I mean, that last drive was ridiculous from Trevor Lawrence too. So, and he still has his mistakes here and there. But Etienne goes down. Hasty steps up, who could be the third running back. Maybe not now, but third running back moving forward because they have Etienne, who should be fine, and they have Darrell Henderson now. So I guess they get better with that. But Hasty was pretty solid in this one, obviously. Defense kind of clutched up when they needed to. That fumble for the Ravens late in their own territory was pretty costly. I think if they don't fumble that, they probably win this game. I kind of want to see the where's the Ravens Jags? I kind of wanted to see the rushing numbers here. Yeah, they couldn't. It was just pretty much Lamar that was running well. Duvernay on 2 carries. But, they put the ball on the ground a lot, not just the Edwards play, but I forgot Lamar had that fumble. But, just too many mistakes, I guess, that just have not been able to close out games this year. It's like it's supposed to be a good team, but the Ravens, like, sometimes you got to question them here. But, I mean, Lamar had that big clutch throw to Deshaun Jackson, but, taking that lead back, going for 2, and you think they have it wrapped up, but the Jags get down there and score, then go for 2 and get that as well. It's just the Ravens are so tough to figure out right now because they're a good team, and at any given time they could be really good on either side of the ball, but they're so inconsistent on both sides of the ball. Like, they're so hard to fully trust on both sides of the ball. Like, offense could shut down for a stretch, but the defense could just do that. Like, they've been so good recently, like, since they've kind of adjusted, got Roquan Smith, have been so good, but then they kind of just let you down in the final drive of the game, like situations like that, let the Jags go score 28. So that Marvin Jones touchdown catch, ridiculous. I'm still questioning if he was in or not. I'm not really going to complain because it was so close and they called it a catch on the field. But it was so tricky because I thought his calf hit out of bounds maybe before his shin was down, but it seemed like the same foot did hit twice. Did the side of the ankle go down, and that would be in. So there's so many. That was a wild one. There were so many factors where it could have been called either way. So I guess I can't complain. The more I watched, the more I thought it was actually going to be reversed. So that was a tough one, but. Not surprised at all that it stayed out with the call on the field, and it's not really one you can complain about too much either way. But the Jaguars clutch up and win the game there. It was a wild one for sure. Trevor Lawrence, loved the outing for him, obviously. Ravens, man, you can't trust this team. It's a good team that you definitely cannot trust. They should be a playoff team, but how are they going to get over that hump? They have not been able to get, and they've had some better teams in the past too. I mean, I thought they were a better team last year. They were extremely injured. They didn't make the playoffs. I thought they were better last year. The way they finished the year, even though they were losing some games, they're going to end up having a better record this year. But just what I'm actually watching, I don't know. Maybe that's me. So disappointing there. The Jags, this one probably got to feel good. Like, you got that win. You're a better team in your record, but it's kind of hurt a little bit. It got to hurt a little bit too. You win this game and you probably go, I'm just thinking what I would be thinking as a fan, like, God, that was awesome. That was great. Good signs from Trevor Lawrence. Good clutch win. We can close out games. But, God, what if we closed out those other games that we should have closed out? We'd be a damn good football team right now. We'd be talking maybe towards the top, battling the Titans for the AFC South. So that might have to hurt a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's positives here for the Jaguars. Chargers-Cardinals is another one that the Cardinals should close out, and they did not. The Chargers have not been able to close out games the last couple weeks. They outplayed the Niners for a half. They outplayed the Chiefs for a decent amount of time. 2 times they played them, but they actually find a way to close this one out. Herbert was under a lot of pressure all day, so credit to him clutching up, finding ways here, and getting the job done at the end, that final drive. And, Brandon Staley was going to go for 2, and of course they got it. I want to talk about that 2-point conversion. Usually when you go for 2 in those situations where a team goes for 2, they end up being battles. Like, so close either way, tight play. Not this one. It was just a freebie for the Chargers, so I don't know if we can put the full blame or the loss for the Cardinals on that 1 2-point conversion, but that's pretty bad that it was that free there. It just should not be. It's rare to actually see that. Surprisingly, it's kind of rare. You'd think you would get ones that were easy all the time, but that was so easy for them. Eckler was pretty clutch. Good to have Keenan Allen back out there, obviously. Some brutal mistakes on both sides here. Kyler Murray had a bad interception. That might have been a touchdown if he put the ball far enough. But other than that, Kyler played all right. Connor had a fumble, but other than that, I thought he played all right. It's just really what it came down to. The Chargers had the ball last. That's what it was. They had the ball last. Cardinals defense made some clutch plays during this game, but did not in that situation. So when it comes down to it, there's just some teams that can't make the stop in crunch time, and there's teams that can go get that score in crunch time, and it kind of sums up the Chargers and the Cardinals. Like, the Cardinals got a decent defense, probably better than what it looks like on paper. I think Vance Joseph's a good defensive coordinator, but here comes crunch time. You don't really trust them to make that stop. It's just for some reason that's what it is. And the Chargers, with that explosive offense, Justin Herbert, even though they haven't really been doing it the last couple of weeks, they kind of been failing in those situations. It's a team that you still kind of trust to go execute in crunch time there. So massive win for both teams. Needed that to be able to close out a game like that so bad. Obviously, one team gets it, one team doesn't. Raiders Seahawks, wild one here, absolute shootout, 40-34 in overtime. Josh Jacobs, insane. Absolutely insane. Looked like the best running back in football. It's still crazy that the Raiders didn't pick up the option, but that's kind of the Ziegler and McDaniels way there to not pay the running backs. They may have to rethink that this offseason, so we will see. I know some people are saying franchise tag. I don't see them tagging Jacobs. That'd be over $12 million, which he's worth, but I just don't know if I see it. I'm not going to rule it out, but off topic, a little bit of a scare early in this game. We thought Carr was injured, comes back in, throws a touchdown, and they end up scoring 40 points, something the Raiders have not been able to do. This is what the offense should look like. Seahawks defense kind of back to where it was early in the season, kind of the defense we expected. There was a stretch in the middle of the season, up to somewhat recently, where they looked a lot better than they're supposed to be. Was that just a pretend? Was that just a lie there? It kind of looks like it, but yeah, I mean, the Raiders, are they back? I don't know. I don't want to say they're back, and they can lose to about anybody at any given time, but it's good to see them go out and score 40 points. It's good to see them stick to Josh Jacobs running the football. They kind of went away from it sometimes here and there when he's been very effective all year. There was a crucial moment in this game where he fumbled and they ruled forward progress, so the Raiders might have been fortunate there. Not to take anything away from Jacobs on his monster game, though. Calls game at the end of overtime, that's always a great moment, something like that in overtime. But, it's wild because the Seahawks scored 34 points, so a great offensive outing, but they had mistakes as well. And that read option mistake from Geno, interception. They could have scored a lot more points. And when the Seahawks stopped the Raiders on fourth down in a crucial moment as well, both teams could have scored a lot more points, and the final score was 40-34. So it's a tough one for the Seahawks to let get away. They were one of the hottest teams in football for a stretch, and now they're off a Bucs loss, a bye, and then a Raiders loss. So that is extremely tough. Kenneth Walker had 2 really good runs, but that's about all he had. So he's been getting shut down the last couple outings as well. So maybe this is more like the Seahawks actual team. They're still very explosive on offense, but Raiders, it's a much-needed win there for them so that they clutch up and go and win that one, obviously. And then the Rams-Chiefs, don't have a whole lot in this one. The Chiefs weren't too crazy, but they went and scored when they needed to score. Mahomes did have a bad interception in the end zone. not really a huge deal. Rams are really beat up. Perkins out there. They put up somewhat of a fight. The Chiefs end up covering by half a point, so it kind of went pretty close to expect. I'm just realizing I think my score prediction was 27-10. I just realized that now, so I'm gonna have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure that was my score prediction. I'm pretty damn sure. So that looks pretty good. But yeah, so I guess it kind of went as expected there. Trying to think if I'm missing anything. There's not too much to go over in this game, but it just kind of went as expected here. But yeah, Chiefs just made the plays when they needed to. That's really what it came down to, what they just needed to do. Can't really judge these teams like for the future off a game like this, in my opinion. I don't know. Next, Saints and Niners. This is one of the more maybe intriguing games to me from the weekend. Actually, 13-0. If you didn't watch the game, you look at 13-0 like, man, the Niners shut them out. They did shut them out. They played great defense. But, usually you see a shutout, and even if the Niners only have 13 points, you think, well, the Niners got that one easy. I'd say not so fast. Like, the Saints could have, believe it or not, could have won this game. They could have. Early in this game, Olave had a deep catch. It's what he does best. And he caught the ball, took 2 steps, started to turn upfield, got hit to the ground. As he was going to the ground, the ball still in his possession, hits the ground, the ball pops up. So to me, that is clear-cut a catch, and then the ground caused the fumble, meaning it's not a fumble. They review it and say that is not a catch. So I'm confused about that one. And that would have put them in prime position to score. So points, I don't want to say points taken off the board for the Saints. Well, yeah, at that early stage, if they get to 4th down, they're probably going to take the field goal, and they're probably going to get it. So points pretty much taken off the board, and they could have scored 7. And then they were still in the game, down 13-0, still in the game. Kamara fumbles right in the goal line. Hufanga, big-time play. Credit to the 49ers red zone defense, just defense in general for being stout. But opportunity missed from the Saints, and then they got the ball back instantly down there again, and they had no choice but to go on 4th down because they weren't getting points on the other opportunities. If they got points on the other opportunities, they maybe would have been able to kick the field goal instead of going for 4th down. Nick Bosa, which was borderline offsides, it was tough to tell, but gets a big-time sack. He's a big-time player. He does the big-time things, obviously, and that's pretty much ball game. So credit to the 49ers elite defense, arguably the best in football. Red zone defense was stout, making plays, just not allowing the Saints in the end zone. That's what the 49ers did. They got it done. Saints had an opportunity to have way more than 0 points, maybe tie, come close, or have more than that 13 points. So maybe the game went a little more differently than what the score will tell you, perhaps. But a stout defensive game for the 49ers there in that one. Elijah Mitchell ended up getting hurt too, so that's pretty tough. He had an explosive play, got called back for a Kittle hold, but that would have been a nice play there. But yeah, tough one for the Saints there. The NFC South is still pretty much alive, but they got to find ways to win some of these games here. The Sunday night game was oddly high scoring, 40-33, and there was some really good offensive moments in this game. And the Eagles, Hurts, really good moments, very good offense. But at the same time, I think a lot of the reason that there was so much scoring is just because of sloppy play. Rodgers starts the game with a pick. A.J. Brown gets a fumble, just gives teams opportunity to get points. Rodgers ended up having another pick. It seemed like a really sloppy game to make it 40-33, which is kind of rare. Just kind of I was like thinking while they were scoring so many points, like this doesn't really feel like Eagles-Packers. It feels like, I was trying to figure out what it feels like. Maybe like 2 worse teams that score a lot of points with a lot of sloppiness in it. And I was trying to think the game that popped in my mind was one that happened somewhat recently. It was like, it felt like a Bears-Lions game where it's a kind of a shootout, but it's pretty sloppy. It kind of felt like that, but there were still some really, really good moments offensively and turnovers created defensively. Hurts was fantastic in a game like this, obviously. And basically the Eagles had to go score 40 to win, which shouldn't be the case, but they went out and scored 40. The Eagles get 2 picks early in this game. They still allow 33, so it's a little odd. The defense doesn't, and I tweeted this and people had a problem with it, but I said that the Eagles defense doesn't feel anywhere near as good as it did early in the season. I think people always read things wrong. I think people took it as the Eagles defense is, I don't know how you take it as this, but that's what it felt like. Eagles defense is bad now. It was good. Now it's bad. Not at all what I said. Early in the year, they were insane. Like, I felt like elite top 3 defense. They were ridiculous. Look what they did to the Vikings in week 2. Those weeks usually tell us nothing, though, about the future, so I guess it makes sense. But they're just nowhere near as good. Now, do I think they're going to give up 33 points every week? No. But just recently, the team's been able to run the football, get explosive plays on them. So it is a little interesting, but still I view as a good defense, but not in a game like this, though. Rodgers goes down. Jordan Love makes some decent plays there. You see Christian Watson getting loose. That's good. Incredible throw to Aaron Jones by Love. Jones has flat out dropped it. It was a good hole shot throw in a cover against cover 2. So we'll see if he's a starter going forward. Multiple injuries now for Aaron Rodgers. Maybe we should just shut him down, but they are technically still alive, perhaps. But yeah, it was a weird game. It was like kind of entertaining, but I thought it was pretty sloppy at the same time because it was just like turnovers led to points, very sloppy defense, bad angles, bad tackles. Just both teams kind of exploiting a bad area for defenses. So it was a weird one. Eagles-Titans is going to be a really good game next week, I think. It's going to be a really good game. So excited about that one. But that, I end up talking way longer than only 30 minutes. I wanted to go rapid fire. I can't do it. I just can't do it. There's so much to talk about. There's a lot of things that grind my gears usually during recapping a bunch of games here. But I'm going to shut up now. That's going to do it, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.